Hey YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy Manny here once again. Welcome back to another episode of DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL, NBA, and MLB. With that being said, like always guys, man, I appreciate you. Smash a like on the video, and if it's your first time here, never seen any one of my videos, please subscribe down below, and do not forget to turn on those notifications. This way you do not miss any of my new uploads. And with that being said, today is Sunday, April 29th, 2018. Fanduel, juicy 2-game playoff slate today. We have Game 7 going on today. Indianapolis at Cleveland. Should be a hell of a game. It's been a hell of a series. And, just a couple of key things I just want to mention before I move on with Indianapolis and Cleveland. Indianapolis has gone to Cleveland for 3 games already. They lost 2 out of the 3 games, I believe, or 2 games that they have lost. They lost by only 3 points. They pretty much have been in every game that they have played at Cleveland, especially those 2 games. And those games they should have actually won. So I am not at all surprised at all whatsoever today if Indianapolis comes in here and beats Cleveland in Cleveland in this Game 7. I think they are the more balanced, better team than Cleveland is. I think Cleveland obviously have LeBron. He's a key star. But Indianapolis has Oladipo. They have at least a decent true point guard in Collison, and their front court guys are fairly good. Sabonis is a nice young player. Thaddeus Young gets the job done, and then you still got Miles Turner and some of the other role players like Bogdanovich. They just seem a little more balanced to me. It'll be nice to see Indianapolis beat Cleveland today and move on. Not that I dislike Cleveland. I love LeBron. I just think that nucleus of players there is just really not a good group of guys. So they definitely need to do some work there. And it'll be great if they could just get eliminated and let's get a jump start. And me being a fan and being a person that watches the game as a true blue fan for many years, I like to see a change. I like to see LeBron just get an early vacation and just let this team just rebuild itself a little bit and let him decide what he wants to do. But I'm tired of seeing Cleveland and LeBron, as a player all the way into the finals again. I'd rather see some new blood in there, some new young blood, some new team, which I hope is Philly from the East, like I mentioned before. I really like Utah and New Orleans pretty much in the West, but I don't think that's gonna happen the way these guys, especially now the Utah as well as Rubio. But we'll touch on that in a moment. Anyway, let's just jump into this thing here. So, we have Cleveland favorite, of course, at home by 5. They have an implied total of 102, Indianapolis 97. Obviously, I mentioned this before in Game 6, rebounding. Indianapolis is averaging about 39 rebounds per game. One of the lower tier teams as far as in the playoffs, as well as Cleveland. Cleveland was pretty much dead last at 38, but they're pretty much compatible there, 39 and 38 respectively. Turnover ratio, they both were at 15 turnovers a game. They still are at that rate. Field goal percentage, Indianapolis at 47%, still there. Cleveland is at 44%, and at 3-point percentage rate, they're both in the bottom tier of the teams that are playing in the playoffs, with Indianapolis at 33% and Cleveland shooting 31% from the arc. So, not great numbers by any means here between the 2 teams, but then again, like I said before, and I'm going to touch up now, there's definitely some opportunity here for Indianapolis to pull this game out. So let's go right to the point guard position. I'm gonna real quickly, I usually use my fantasy cruncher, and I'm gonna use it here for this game, but they're having a little bit of a problem right now with Utah and Houston's game showing up on the cruncher. They supposedly are working on it, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do the video. I was waiting at least an hour to see if this would rectify, and it has not happened. So because I love using the tool, but I'm just gonna go ahead and give you what I normally do without worrying about Utah and Houston. So as you can see here on the cruncher, we have the 4 guys that are available for this game, for this matchup between Cleveland and Indianapolis, and obviously Darren Collison is the top guy here. And to be honest with you, I'm not interested in any of the Cavaliers guards. The only guard that I would ever consider, and I've used in some of the games, has been J.R. Smith and Kyle Korver. I never liked their backcourt guys. I'm not on George Hill. George Hill, I believe, is still hurt. if he does play, I will not be on him. It would be a great play for anybody who plays him, but I am not on him. Jose Calderon, I'm not on him either. I'd rather just pay up for Darren Collison or pay up for Donovan Mitchell, who's going to be starting at point for the Jazz today, in the absence of Rubio, which we'll touch up on in a little bit. But in this particular matchup between Cleveland and Indianapolis, I like Darren Collison here. Collison 22-12 and 33-10 and 33 over the last 5 games in this series. He definitely has not been consistent here, but he's still getting sufficient minutes, and he's getting at least a decent number of shots. With him, if he is in the groove and he's hitting a couple of shots and he's making a couple of other things possible, like getting some good assists, and he's capable of rebounding, he definitely helps the team in other ways. He definitely here is the best point guard out of the two teams. Also, a key thing to remember, and I mentioned this before, Cleveland has given up 12-13 big games during the course of the year to point guards. It hasn't quite happened here. He did have a 33 and a 33. He scored 33 points, fantasy points, in 2 out of the 6 games. I think he's due. I really think he's due. And at his price, $5,600, you really need to get about 26, 27 from him. He's very much capable. He has a good ceiling. He can put up about 40 for you. So I like him here in this matchup. I think he needs to be very much involved in his offense and actually really get off shooting the ball well for Indianapolis to even have even a more better chance to win this game. They could win the game with even Darren Collison struggling, but because they do have Corey Joseph, who really plays well right off the bench. So I like Collison here. I think he's definitely a good play. And if you really don't want to pay up for Collison, then definitely you can go with Corey Joseph. As you can see, he's been pretty steady. Last 2 games he's been marvelous, 29 and 21, 22 and 27 minutes respectively. He's getting some shots. He was 4 of 9 in the last game and 2 of 6 prior to that. He's not going to do a whole lot of things, but he does rebound. He's willing to get dirty, and he definitely passes the ball. So there are a couple good attributes that Corey Joseph brings to the floor. So I personally feel that if you can even go with a matchup with Collison and Joseph here in this game, if you wanted to just stack up on Indianapolis players, I would not disagree with you at all there. It would be something that I would consider myself. But definitely, if I'm going to take any one of the two, I think Collison obviously has the upside because he's the starter, and usually if he's playing well, he's going to play a lot more. He's going to be more on the floor, and he's going to get more opportunities to dish and to rebound and to actually score. So Collison's definitely the best play there. We go to shooting guard. We got Oladipo, Korver for Cleveland, J.R. Smith, Ronnie Hood, Jordan Clarkson. I mean, they got a ton of point guards and shooting guards here, the Cavaliers, and all of them are just not that great. I like Jordan Clarkson when he was with LA. They opened up the floor. He was in a better system for his kind of play, and plus he's not even getting a whole lot of time yet. But if he was to get more time on the floor, maybe even start, I'd rather have him start at point guard for Cleveland, where he has experience. I think I mentioned this in the last video, than having Calderon, or George Hill. But it's not happening. If they want to make the movement, they brought these kids in here. They're younger. Why not just try to utilize and know that this kid has capabilities of scoring? He could put up 30, 40 fantasy points, even 50. I think he did for LA this year. So he could definitely take over a game. If he was to start, I would definitely consider him at 3,000. He would be a true bargain. He is a bargain here at 3. Let's see here, playing 24 minutes in the last game. I mean, he's just not. He took 8 shots, only hit 2 of them, and didn't hit any threes. But if he would have buried a few more shots here and a few more, if he would have hit at least half of those threes, he would have been on the floor even longer. And he was also on the floor obviously longer because the game got out of hand. But we'll see what happens here. I like Clarkson, especially when he was in LA. I know he's in Cleveland now, but they're not utilizing this kid the right way. So I mean, if you're gonna go with anybody here in Cleveland, I would say Kyle Korver at 4,600. If he can just find his rhythm, he's a rhythm kind of guy. He needs to square up. He needs to be able to have a little bit of spacing, and if he can get that, he can shoot lights out, of course, from 3. And as you can see from the floor, he did fairly well in game 5 and in game 4. But game 6 was definitely a washout. He did play enough minutes, 25, but it was just the flow of the offense was not going his way. Plus, Utah was just, Utah. Indianapolis was just all over these guys in that game. They just were really fired up. They were at home. They're going to need to play with that kind of intensity again today and make it difficult for Kyle Korver. If they could do that, they'll be in good shape to possibly pull out this upset today. Victor Oladipo is my favorite play. Obviously, 6,800. He's one of my favorite plays at shooting guard today, period, other than, of course, James Harden. 68 fantasy points in the last game after 4 or 5 duds. We knew he was due for it. He's going to need to step up, and I don't think he needs to put up 68 today, but he's going to need to shoot well today and be able to definitely have an awesome game for Indianapolis to have a shot. So I expect him to do that. He is a very talented basketball player. The longest he's able to get some shots, and he's able to get them to go down, he's going to do quite fine. If he can get a nice early start like he did in Indy today, man, Indianapolis is going to have a good chance to wrap this up and pull out this upset today. So definitely on Victor Oladipo at shooting guard. At small forward, we go over here. We got LeBron James. We know he's the king of the hill here, man. He's the best small forward on the floor here today in this matchup. James obviously had a monster game 2 games ago. He didn't play as well in the last game, even though he put up 43 fantasy points. A lot of people will take that. It's better than nothing. 69 in the prior game, 63, 54, and 70, and 57. So he's been pretty much averaging 54 plus. His lone dud game was the last game, and even then he put up respectable numbers: 22 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. He had 2 blocks to steal. He did have four big turnovers. LeBron James definitely in play for you guys today. If you want to pay up for LeBron, I don't see no reason why not to in this 2-game slate. If you're gonna pay for one stud, it'll either be James or it's gonna be Harden today, because they're gonna be the top ones for sure. I like the Bogdanovich and Stevenson matchup with these guys here. I mean, they really have been giving not only James, but they just, especially Stevenson. Let me go back over here. Especially Stevenson. He's been just a pain in the balls, man. He gets under the skin of players. He's definitely agitating James, and he's actually doing the same to a number of other guys on the Cavaliers team. So he's just one of those guys. And remember, he's from Brooklyn. This guy doesn't fear anybody. He's going to be very cocky, flamboyant, and he definitely gets to me as well as a fan. It's like, oh man, why this guy doesn't do all these antics? But Lance Stevenson gets the job done, and at 4,200. He's definitely in play for me today. 27 and 26 in 2 out of the last 3 games. He's playing sufficient minutes, 23 plus. He's getting usage. He's getting shots, 12, 8, 11, 8, 9, and 11. He's shooting a couple of threes and hitting them pretty well as well. He's rebounding. He's actually passing the ball very well in the last few games. 6 assists, 4 and 6. And you know what? He doesn't turn over the ball a whole lot, and he doesn't get usually in big foul trouble. He gets fouls, but he never really is at the brink of fouling out. He's just very good, tenacious, physical defense, and that's what you need to do to really disturb LeBron and some of those other guys that he may defend. So Lance Stevenson definitely in play. I love the way he's been playing. I like him today at 4,200. Bogdanovich also is a good play today. He has not looked good in the last 3 games, but Bogdanovich is due. Remember what I said. Big games against Cleveland is one of the worst teams in the league against small forwards throughout the course of the year. In the playoffs, they've been okay, but it's still, Bogdanovich is capable of putting up 30 plus in this game, and Cleveland has allowed 13 big games against small forwards this year. So he is prime position to come up with a big game and get 35 plus. And I think Bogdanovich is definitely a nice play today. But if you don't want to pay up for James, and you don't want to pay up at small forward in the Utah-Houston game, where I think Ingles is the best play there, you definitely should pay up here. Get Bogdanovich. You can actually even get Bogdanovich and Ingles, or you can actually do Bogdanovich stacking with his own teammate Stevenson. And that should not be a bad play at all, guys. Something definitely to consider if you don't want to pay up for a stud in LeBron James today. You want to pay up for Harden in the other game. Power forward advice here. Kevin Love, man, he's been just horrendous. He's just been horrible, in this playoff series. And you know what? I'm just done. I'm not gonna go ahead and tell you guys that I'm on Kevin Love, because I am not on him. I think if you're going to go here in this particular game with a power forward, you definitely should look at Young and Sabonis, and that's basically it. And if you're looking at Cleveland, then you want to pay down. You're going to pay down for Jeff Green or Larry Nance. But let's start here with Thaddeus Young. I'm not going to even look at Kevin Love. We have here, as you can see, Thaddeus last 2 games, subpar, really below value. 30 and 31 minutes. He's playing enough minutes, so that's what I like to see. I would love to see him get a few more touches and get a few more shots down. He wasn't shooting back from the floor. 4 of 6, 8 of 9, and 5 of 12, 6 of 10, and pretty much in the last 4 games. He's getting enough touches. And what's happening is he's just not getting enough rebounds. His rebounds 5, 6. He really needs to rebound a little bit more. He needs to get a couple block shots, get a couple steals. He usually does all these dirty things for the Pacers, and it's not happening over the last 2 games. But if he does get it together and he takes a few more shots, look what can happen. 44 and 35 in game 2 and 3, and actually game 3 and 4, and they were at Cleveland. I mean, they were at home. Sorry about that. They were at home. Looking here, they were at home those games. But he is capable of doing that. Thaddeus Young, and then his number is 6,200. It's not bad. He's been pretty much at 62, 63. He's actually cheaper today than he was in Game 6, and even cheaper than he was in Game 5. 6,200 is definitely a respectable price for Thaddeus Young. He needs to get about 30, 31 for you at that price. And as we know, he definitely can get there. He has upside. He can give you as much as 40 plus. Sabonis has been really, really nice under the boards. In the paint, he is fantastic. Does great post-up moves. He's also a lefty. That's always a problem in the NBA with lefties. 25, 33, and 24 respectively. He has put up 23 minutes in the last game, and he put up 25 fantasy points. So that's fantastic. It's more than a point a minute. 33. 24 usage rate, 26, 25% and 27% respectively. Look at this, 9 of 11 and 8 of 12. I really love this guy. 5,100, and of course, as we all know, Cleveland cannot defend the guys up front. They have had trouble with small forwards, power forwards, and centers all year long. These guys, and sometimes I'm watching again, I'm like, why are you guys not giving this ball back to this guy? He's dominant. Everybody that lines up to defend him is not even his size. He looks like an Adonis when he lines up against his defenders. He should dominate, and as long as he's able to get in close enough, he's going to bury the shots. Domantas Sabonis is definitely in play today. One of my favorite plays here. I really, really love this guy. 5,100. You need to get 25, 26 from him, and they're projecting him to get 25 today. I think he's going to get that, and if they're going to win this game, they're going to need to have some Sabonis, even a little higher than that. So definitely like Sabonis there in the power forward spot. Larry Nance and Jeff Green are probably the best options other than Kevin Love for Cleveland. Larry Nance, let's see what he did here. Larry Nance had 18, 18, 15. They're not utilizing a lot of Larry Nance. We know he's very talented as well. He did show that in LA. I mean, just a totally different system. 16, 13, 17, and 12 fantasy points. He has not been performing that well, but he's not getting enough opportunity either. If they let him play on the floor a little bit longer, I could see where he could probably have a better game. But 4,000 is definitely still fairly cheap. If you can get those 20 minutes or better, I would definitely like to play him. I would recommend here, like I said before, my advice is you could take a dive and take a chance on Kevin Love to have a big game. He should break out at some point. Maybe today's the day. All right, this is why we play the games. We don't know what we're gonna get. All right, we may get the Kevin Love of old, and he may just have a monster game. We know he rebounds, but he hasn't been shooting the ball well. The Rockets not gone down well for K Love. So look at. I'm definitely still favoring, like I said, Thaddeus Young and Domantas Sabonis in this matchup. All right, center. Not too thrilled with any of the centers here. I'm not on Miles Turner. I'm not going to recommend you to take Miles Turner, but is he an option? Of course. Of course. Of course he is. Cleveland doesn't have a center. Cleveland doesn't have a center. So you should definitely take advantage of that. Let's see what he did in the last few games. He's been in the red all throughout this series. He got more minutes in the last game, 28 minutes. He took 6 shots up. He hit 4. He got to the free throw line a little bit. Got 4 free throws, hit 3 out of the 4. What I'm missing here with him is just his rebounding, man. He's not rebounding enough. But then again, this is sufficient minutes. I don't like the fact that he played 21 and 23 here. 28 is more like it, and he should actually be on the floor a little bit more because he's a young player. He can definitely, and he's not a bad defender. So Miles Turner, his problem is he gets into foul trouble. He didn't get into foul trouble in the last game, but he definitely has had in the previous games been in trouble, and that's what puts him to sit, and he gets out of the rhythm and out of the offense in this game, for this team. So it's important. If Miles Turner can stay on the floor and not get into foul trouble early, he'll get a few more minutes, and if he's able to get a couple easy buckets, it'll make it a lot easier for him. His confidence will grow, the team's confidence in him will grow, and he'll get a little bit more touches on that basketball. But right now, it's just not happening. And for me, I'd rather pay up and choose someone from the Utah Houston game, because those two guys there are the true centers in this slate today. All right, so that's pretty much where I'm at. Let me just recap. Point guard here in this game, if you're looking at anybody, I would definitely go with Darren Collison. And if you wanted to do a stack between Collison and Joseph, I don't think that's not a bad idea at all. I'm definitely not on George or anybody else that the Cavaliers have to offer there. Same thing at the shooting guard position. My favorite play is Oladipo. If you're going to play anybody here, I would take a dive on Carver to hopefully have a better shooting game and to get better looks today. But I just feel that I keep saying Utah, Indianapolis is going to definitely tighten up that defense today, and it's going to make it more difficult for some of these other guys. They may want to let LeBron get a little bit more touches and not allow guys like Corver getting hot or anybody else where it opens up and spreads the floor a little bit more. So maybe they'll key up more on those three-point shooters, and I think that would be a good way to go other than going full steam ahead and defending LeBron. But Oladipo, best play here, small forward. Definitely LeBron James, if you want to pay up for the stud, I think he's good for it. He's at home. This is a game 7. He's going to take the whole team on his back. He's going to do everything he can to get this team to the finish line and move on to round 2. But I don't know if I'm going to pay up 12-5 for LeBron. So, but definitely, he's definitely a good play. He can definitely get there. He can light it up for 60 plus. It's definitely a shot. Bogdanovich and Stevenson I like better here, and I even like pairing them up too as well, like I had mentioned with Collison and Joseph. You can definitely do the same here with Bogdanovich and Stevenson if you like, but if you're going to play either one, if you want to pay down, definitely go with Stevenson because of his tenacity, his ruthlessness, his roughness, his toughness in defending, and of course getting under the skin of the Cavalier players. He's good for that. Bogdanovich, definitely a great play. I really like him a little bit more simply because he hasn't had a great game yet, and if he can shoot the rock well, especially from three-point range, he will get a lot more touches and a lot more shots, and that's going to open the doors for him as well. So definitely he's in play. Power forward, you could pay up for Kevin Love and hope that he has a Kevin Love type of game, but he hasn't been Kevin Love of old in this series, and I think they're going to still try to neutralize him and not really let him beat them. So Kevin Love to me is not in play for me today. I definitely like Young and Sabonis here. Again, I wouldn't mind even matching pairing up these two guys. Not saying stack up all the Indianapolis Pacers players, but if you wanted to just go with power forwards here, Young and Sabonis would be a good pair, and then basically look for small forwards and shooting guards in the Houston Utah game. You mix and match any way you want. Larry Nance is in play, or even a Jeff Green if you want to pay down in the hopes that those guys have great games for Cleveland, but I'm not on those guys today. Center, Miles Turner is definitely a decent play at 5,400. He's definitely at a good price. He's due for a nice big game. If he's able to get more minutes, like I said before, he would be someone you can consider. Let's go over to the Utah-Houston game. This is going to be a tough game for the Utah Jazz simply because they don't have Mr. Rubio. Rubio is a big loss, and he's one of my favorite guys here in the Utah team. And it's really disappointing for this team to come this far and really battle the way they did in the last series and get here to this round 2 and not have all their star players at 100%. So Rubio is probably going to miss this whole series. With the hamstring, it's definitely definitely a tough injury. Hamstrings you can't play with. I've had my little share of pulled hammies, so it definitely takes a long time to really get 100%. So he's gonna have to take it slow, and they're gonna have to hope that some guys step up. So looking at the point guards right away here, a couple of things to mention here. Houston is favored by 11 at home. That is pretty big. They got an implied total of 109. Utah at 97. Couple of key things to remember here. Rebounding so far in this series, Utah is the second best rebounding team in the playoffs as we speak right now. They're rebounding 48 rebounds per game on average. Houston is sixth in the playoffs right now, 43. So there is an advantage there in rebounding with Utah, where I definitely see that as well. Just looking at the guys up front. Turnover ratio, Houston is the best in the playoffs thus far. They're averaging only 8 turnovers a game, folks. 8 turnovers, man. So that's pretty big. Utah is averaging in the middle of the pack pretty much with everybody else at around 15 turnovers a game. They definitely need to pick it up there. Field goal percentage, and just before I even go to the field goal percentage, turnover ratio, I was looking back. The last time they played each other, Houston beat Utah all 4 games they played this year. The last time they played was back in February. I think Utah is definitely even a better team now than they were in February. But that last game they played, they won. Houston beat Utah at Utah 96-85. They won by 11, and it was definitely a low-scoring game. Definitely a lot of turnovers. The defense really cramped up. I remember watching that game. And then I look back to see the stats, and I noticed that they committed 22 turnovers. Houston, it's one of the worst turnover games that they had this season. So definitely something to consider here, considering that Houston thus far in the playoffs have only had 8 turnovers. If Utah can make it difficult for them, and they definitely found something in that game where they can actually maybe bring into this game, maybe they can just get a little bit more turnovers off these guys and minimize some of their own turnovers, and in turn turn those into points and keep this game close. So something to consider there. 22 turnovers by Houston, that's quite a bit, and out of the 22 turnovers, Utah converted 20 points out of that, so that's not bad. So just a little recap there from previous game. I know it's probably not going to be anything major to even think about, but it's just something to point out and bring out to you guys, my viewers. So getting back to some of the stats of the playoffs, field goal percentage, Utah is shooting 4th in the playoffs thus far at 45%. Houston is right there, 6th at 44%. So they're pretty much balanced out there. At the 3-point strike, Utah is 3rd at 35%. Houston is 5th at 34%. Pretty much balanced there as well. We know that Houston is a big 3-point shooting team, so if they can minimize and defend the 3-point shots a little bit better, Utah today, that gives them a little better chance to also stay close in this game. So something to look at there as well. And then averaging points throughout the playoffs, obviously Houston is one of the top teams. They're 4th out of the teams that are left in the playoffs at 110 points per game, while Utah has been averaging 104. So alright, so that's pretty much some of the little statistical things. Other things to keep in mind here, Houston has allowed 8 big games to point guards. So definitely with Donovan Mitchell here on Fanduel, Donovan Mitchell is not on here. You got Dante Exum. That's the only thing that sucks about this. But we know that he's the shooting guard in Fanduel. You're definitely going to have to pencil him in if you're interested in Donovan Mitchell, which like I am. I would definitely pencil him in. His price is up high, but he's going to get a lot of work today. He's going to need to be the man. So something to consider there. They've had their troubles there. Chris Paul is a decent defender. He's not the greatest defender. He's like a sneaky defender. He definitely can get some steals on you. They've also had another thing to point out. Houston has had issues with small forwards. They have also given up about 10 big games against small forwards. So definitely look at, especially now with Rubio not in the lineup, you could expect Ingles to get a little bit more shots because he's capable of lighting it up, shooting the ball and even penetrating. I mean, he does a little bit of everything, Joe Ingles. So expect him to get a few more touches and definitely a little bit more floor time, which opens up the doors for him to score more points. So I am definitely looking at Ingles today, something to consider there. Obviously, there are some guys that are going to be playing today. They're going to get more time as well, so something to consider there. You got Royce O'Neal, more than likely going to start at shooting guard, and when he has played and started, he has done fairly well for Utah. big opportunity for him. He was one of the guys that defended against Houston the last time against, James Harden. He defended him quite a bit, as well as Ingles, who defended him even more. So that's something to consider there. When James Harden is on the floor, you're going to see either Ingles or Royce O'Neal on him as far as the defender. So hopefully those guys can defend a little bit better like they did in the last game they played in February, and they'll give them that much more of a shot. Another thing to also consider here, Joe Crowder, definitely coming off the bench, should get more floor time today, and definitely more shots with the absence of Ricky Rubio. So something also to consider here, guys. If Joe Crowder could, if they can open up the floor a little bit and let Joe Crowder shoot from his mid-range shot as far as up back as his three-point shots, then he is very dangerous. And if he gets hot, they're going to keep feeding him the ball. So a couple key guys here, O'Neal, Joe Crowder, those are guys you can look at in this game. So anyway, going back now, point guard, obviously Chris Paul here is the top dog here, 8,700. I like Chris Paul. This is definitely a decent matchup for him. Not an easy matchup, because he's going to more than likely be defended by Donovan Mitchell. And Donovan Mitchell, pretty much like Chris Paul, they pretty much balance each other out. Mitchell, I think he's a little more explosive now because he's a younger guy, but Chris Paul still's got great game. He's a decent defender. Donovan Mitchell, decent defender. It's going to be a matter of who is able to get out and score, okay, and be able to run their offense better. That's going to have probably the better game. Chris Paul has those moments where he can have fabulous games. We'll look here real quickly. 34, 33, 30, 29 in the Minnesota series, 33. So he averaged 29 plus minutes in the series, but I can see it was a little off. He had in between games where he was just really dreadful. 33 minutes here, but only got 23 fantasy points. He did have 6 turnovers. That was horrible. Then he had a 53 spot. Then he put a 28 spot in game 3. Also a little bit of a downer, 30 minutes. Then he put 33 minutes. He put up a 55 spot, and then he came back with a subpar game again. 34 minutes, 31 minutes. 34 minutes to get 31. That's not bad, but at his price, you don't want to get 31. So my only concern with that is he going to be able to put up, a 50 spot today at 8,700? And if I'm gonna choose either one, at point guard here, I'm gonna go right to the shooting guard, and knowing that Donovan Mitchell is the point guard for Utah today, I'd rather pay up and take a chance with Donovan, who we know is more than capable of putting up 40 or better any single day. And if we look here, just to compare him right now, Donovan, minutes have been crazy. He had to play this many minutes the other day, but as you can see, his numbers are fairly good. In this series against OKC, 51, had one dreadful game here, 37, which is still respectable, 42, 50, 44, 43, so he's good for 42 plus, and his price is up today. You need to get about 47 today at that price, 46, 47. I'm going to be honest with you, I'll take my chances with him at 9,300 as opposed to taking James Harden, but if you can get Harden and Mitchell in there somehow, hey, I haven't looked at all the numbers yet. I haven't crunched the numbers yet. If I can get both of those guys in there, I'll probably do that. More so than having Paul. But then again, you could definitely pay for Paul and Mitchell and not play Harden. And then try to get maybe Mr. Oladipo or something like that as the other shooting guard. So a lot of options there, of course. We'll go right to shooting guard because obviously here, point guard, other than Paul, I'm not interested in anybody else. Shooting guard, definitely I'm on Mitchell. Definitely I'm on Harden. Harden here, let's see, 37, 33, 36, 34. He's getting sufficient minutes. He had 2 games here under 50, but he had a 63 spot, 59, almost 60, and a 57 against Minnesota. Tough situation with Utah. Utah, we know, is a fairly decent defensive team. He's going to have Ingles, and he's going to have a little bit of Donovan at some points, and he's going to definitely have Mr. O'Neal. Looking at the last game, as far as matchup, the guys that definitely defended him per possessions was pretty much Ingles. Had more than 25 possessions against him, and there was about 15 defensive possessions where he had to deal with Mr. O'Neal. So I would expect those 2 guys are going to definitely get the bulk of the defending assignment against Mr. James Harden. But James is definitely in play, guys. I mean, 12,000. You need 12,000. You need 60. It's a lot of points. But 2 game slate. If you can get one stud in here, and if you feel that James Harden is the guy that can probably get you 60 or better, then by golly, definitely take James Harden. But again, you have here in the entire slate. Let me just put it up here. You got James or Harden. Those are the two keys right there. Other than that, look, Mitchell and Oladipo are the next studs. So I'm on James Harden. If I could squeeze him in, I think I will put him in a lineup. Definitely, again, like I've said before, try to utilize a few different lineups. Try to make 2, maybe 3 core lineups, or make one solid core of 5 or 6 players, which I've mentioned several times in my videos, and then basically just roll in the other 2 or 3 value plays around those guys, and then you give yourself a shot to maybe come in multiple positions in the tournament. Remember, this is GPP. I'm aiming for, guys. Like I said before, if I feel somebody's a good cash play, I will let you know. Harden is definitely, to me, today against Utah, definitely not a good cash play. I'd rather pay down and get some better value there for cash. But as a GPP play, yes, if I'm going to get a stud, I can go with Harden or I can go with James. Either way you want to go, you can do that. All right. And I would say more so James today, simply because they're in a game 7 as opposed to Utah, as opposed to James in Houston. So definitely something to consider there. All right, small forward in this game: Engels, Trevor Ariza, PJ Tucker, Royce O'Neal. As you can see, O'Neal is going to be playing shooting guard. So look at that number. 3,500 is a very, very decent price for Royce O'Neal, who's going to get time on the floor today. We could project him to have at least 25 or better minutes easy today. He got 18 in the last game against OKC, put up 12. All right. Other than that, 19, 20, 15, 13. Not a whole lot because he was coming off the bench. But today he's going to start, and there were times, if we were stroll back, it's hard to go all the way back, but there were times that he got some more minutes during the course of the season where he played a little bit more, and he was very effective. Royce O'Neal is definitely a great value play today. Better of a value play than thinking Gerald Green or PJ Tucker, who's at 3,900, who gets time on the floor. He's more, I guess, there for defending. He does have his moments, but I'm just not on PJ Tucker. So when it comes to the Houston Rockets, they're another team that I just don't like a lot of their players. If I use anybody there, is usually and on the lower end here up front is usually just going to be Ryan Anderson, simply because he's a good GPP play, because he could explode for 35, 40. But I'm not going to pencil in PJ Tucker. Definitely O'Neal I like here. Ariza is the only one here, small forward of Houston, that I would consider, because he gets a lot of floor time and he's capable of putting up decent numbers. 25, 16, 24, and 25 over the last 4 games against Minnesota. 38, 33, 33, 34. He's definitely getting 32 minutes plus on the floor. He's going to get about 30 plus in this series as well. Trevor Ariza definitely at 4,800. Good GPP play. Definitely good GPP play. Out of the small forwards, out of this matchup between Houston and Utah, I like Joe Ingles. I think he's going to get more floor time today. He's also going to get more shots today and more opportunities to touch the ball, simply because we don't have Ricky Rubio. And looking back on some statistical games where Ricky Rubio didn't play, Joe Ingles definitely got more touches, as well as Donovan Mitchell, and as well as Gobert and Derek Favors. So it's not Derek Favors, excuse me, Joe Crowder. So those are the guys that you definitely should be aiming for today. Look for Joe Ingles, 41 minutes, expecting to put 35 plus today, 30, 23, 34, 32. All right, he's good. He's been averaging 25 during the season. At this price, you need about 33, and he's been close to that, 32, 34, 33. Had that one little dud here. But again, with Joe Ingles today at 33, I think he can definitely crush 33 today, because they're going to need him to step up, and they're going to need him to have more touches and more shots. So I like him here. I think he definitely is a good play here in this game. And other than that, Trevor Ariza will be the next best play. And then, of course, the value play, definitely with Royce O'Neal stepping up and starting today at shooting guard. Definitely, if you could squeeze him in here in the small forward position. Unfortunately, this is not DraftKings. This is Fanduel. You're definitely going to have to pencil him in there and work that around. We go here to power forward. Derek Favors, definitely in play. Joe Crowder, definitely in play. Ryan Anderson, 2,500. He is mad cheap today, guys. This is mad cheap for Ryan Anderson. He just needs to get going. He didn't get any minutes in the last 3 games. I mean, 18, 17, and 10. In the first game, he came back, 18 minutes. He got 12 points. He pretty much put a little bit more than a point a minute. He came up with 21 fantasy points. Man, I mean, you know, he's a guy you can take a shot on. We know he's a great GPP play. I mean, this guy's dangerous. He's deadly. When he's hot and hits those threes, they're going to feed it to him. They're going to feed it to him. And especially if Utah can defend and neutralize Harden, neutralize Paul, neutralize Ariza. You know, those guys shoot the bulk of the threes on this team and are the most efficient with the threes. PJ Tucker a little bit likes to shoot the three a lot, and even Eric Gordon. I mean, they got a lot of three-point shooters thinking about it. Definitely, you know, you should definitely consider Ryan Anderson at 2,500. He's a steal. That opens up the door to get value somewhere else, like getting a Favors or going to pay up for Harden or for James. So definitely something to look at. You definitely should consider him. Derek Favors and Joe Crowder are definitely nice plays today. Favors is 6,000. He averaged 27 fantasy points during the course of the season. 33, 15, 26, 25, 45. Definitely a good GPP play. As you can see, he could be this bad in 23 minutes, but he could also be this good. You know, 33, 45. You know, he's capable of putting up 50 spot. That we all know. And he's going to definitely need to defend here and get a lot of rebounds in this series. You know, which he's capable of. So I like Favors here, 6. You need to get 30 from him. He averaged 27 during the season. He definitely has some upside. Good GPP play. Joe Crowder is my favorite play here. 4,500. That's pretty cheap. I know for a fact he's going to get more touches today. 30, 36, 27, 22. Those minutes are going to be 30 plus for sure today. Didn't shoot the ball a whole lot in the last game because obviously Donovan Mitchell and everybody else was doing what they needed to do, especially Donovan, and that's the reason why. But today we'll see how it comes out, how the game evolves. Donovan is definitely going to be a big workhorse today, but you're going to need to get some shots out of Joe Crowder to alleviate the pressure a little bit for the kid, and definitely Joe Ingles. I think Crowder and Ingles are the really sneaky ones today for Utah, and of course Derek Favors. I'm not too fond of at center with Gobert. He is actually cheaper than Capella. I really love Capella in this series against Gobert. Capella doesn't get into foul trouble, where Gobert, as we mentioned before in previous videos, he has a tendency to get into foul trouble. So I would rather pay the $700 more and go for Clint Capella here in this matchup. I think he's the best play. Let's take a look quickly here. 33, 31, 26, 28, 34. I mean, he's getting sufficient minutes. He's definitely getting the rebounds. I mean, he's really been playing very well. 26 and 15 in the last game. 48 fantasy points. 49. A little dud here. 24, 30, 51. But definitely a good GPP play. He's actually a decent cash play. He can average 34 like he's done during the course of the season here on fantasy points. I think he can do 35 every single game in this particular series. But I definitely love him here today. He's definitely, for me, one of the guys I'm definitely playing for sure on most of my lineups today. So Clint Capella, definitely play. You could go $700 cheaper and take a chance on Gobert. If he could stay away from foul trouble, he is a fantastic play too. 38, 30, 34, 40, and 33 and 35 in that series against OKC. I expect him to play over 30 minutes in this series every single game, especially with Rubio out. As you can see, he's definitely can put up 40 or better. Yeah, 47 here, 40, 33, 30, 41. But if he could just stay away from foul trouble, he'll be fantastic. He's a good shot blocker. You know, he's a decent rebounder. He's not decent. He's actually a very good rebounder, and he's actually a very good defender. He's not that bad of a defender. I think he's actually a better defender than Capella. I just think that Capella, because of his discipline with fouling and because of all the easy baskets he gets a a lot of easy baskets. If Gobert could keep him away, a little bit more away from the paint and away from the basket, then he'll win this battle, Gobert. That's the best way I can put it. But if Capella could still get those nice feeds from Paul and especially from Harden, where he works well with Harden, then it's going to be trouble. So we'll see what happens. But that's what again, that's pretty much where I'm at with these guys today. Point guard, again, you can go with Paul. I really like Donovan Mitchell, who obviously is in the shooting guard spot here, but we'll be playing point guard today, I would assume, for Utah. And then Royce O'Neal will be the shooting guard. Definitely Harden is in play, guys. Someone to consider. Ingles, I think, is a definitely great play here, small forward. matter of fact, let me just put everybody here together. As you can see, James is the top dog, but I really like Engels here, and I really like Ariza or Stevenson as a lower value play guys. And of course, Royce O'Neal will be in some of my lineups because he is going to more than likely start for Utah today at the shooting guard spot. Power forward, definitely like Young, Favors, and Sabonis and Crowder. Those are probably the top 4 guys that I would recommend anybody try to get 1 or 2 of those guys in your lineups. And then at center, definitely the best play is Capella. And if you don't like Capella, definitely just pay down $700 more and get Rudy Gobert. I'm not going to have too much Miles Turner unless I see I can get some of those studs in there with Miles Turner. I may make a couple of lineups there. I play a lot of different lineups just to give myself a chance to try to pull down this GPP, guys. But again, the best recommendation I can always give you guys is, like I've said before, just get your core 6 guys you truly believe are going to have a great game, are going to definitely come through for you, and then just try to rotate in there 3 different guys or maybe 2 other guys that you're going to see on most of those lineups, and then just make a change on 1 or 2 players and basically roll it like that. Try to do 4 or 5 lineups like that with those core 6 or 7, and you know what, you may just come off pulling out the GPP and probably winning more than one, finishing up in more than one position where you'll cash at. So you'll end up cashing in multiple spots instead of just cashing in one. I like making a couple of different ones as well as making that core 6 or 7. So I utilize a few of those methods as well, and try to give myself the best chance. And that's basically it. That's where we at today, guys, man. I hope you guys liked the video. I hope I gave you some insight. I hope I gave you some stuff to even think about and be able to make your best possible lineups. I wish everybody a lot of luck. I hope you guys make a lot of money. Hey, if you happen to use some of these players and you definitely win some big money, man, comment down the next day below, or comment down on the video below, and at the end of the games and tell me, hey, you know what, thanks a lot. You gave me a couple of guys that I could think about. I put those guys in and they came through. But that's pretty much it, man. That's again, a lot of luck tonight. Enjoy the games, and we'll see you guys tomorrow, man. Your boy Manny is out. God bless.